Welcome to this special edition of Crossroads Weekend Services. We are so glad you've come to join us. My name is Trevor DeVore, and I am the Thornton campus pastor. And joining me today in our broadcast booth is Pastor Brad. Welcome, Brad.
Trevor, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here, and I want to give a big shout out to all four campuses today. Fort Lupton, Thornton, North Bend, packed houses in all three physical campuses, and we can't forget the online folks. So welcome to all of you, and a special shout out to all the fathers out there. You look great in your Hawaiian shirts. Don't they look good today?
They do, yeah. Boom! Men, boom! Men, we want to just take a minute to say thank you.
That's right.
Thank you for being bold in your faith. Thank you for being steadfast to your families. And thank you for your faithful love towards Jesus Christ.
That's
we are
right.
so grateful for all our men on our campuses.
We are.
I'm excited for this weekend because we are continuing in our summer series on Proverbs. And today, Pastor Matt is going to be bringing the word. And I know this week you got to go down to the practice field and see Pastor Matt in action.
I did, Trevor. I was down on the practice field. I'll tell you what, this guy knows how to prepare.
Oh.
I mean, he was doing spiritual push-ups,
Boom.
burpees,
Boom.
pull-ups,
Boom.
jumping jacks.
Unbelievable.
I even saw him run around the track a few times.
Unbelievable.
I'll tell you what, he had probably 3 or 4 different versions of the Bible down there, studying concordances. I mean, he had it going on. He is prepped and ready for this today.
Wow. I did hear a rumor, Brad, that there may or may not have been a sighting of Tim Tebow praying over Pastor Matt.
Oh, boy.
I tell you, if that's the case, wow.
Oh, wow,
Boom.
that's right.
Look out, Crossroads.
And we're going to kick it down to the field right now. Pastor Matt, take it away.
Boom.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, now in the infamous words of Pastor Trevor, boom. That's how we get started, all right? So welcome to this special edition, Father's Day edition of our weekend services. We are glad you are here. And if you are new with us, wow, you just figured out or saw that we are not afraid to have a good time and goof off a little bit, especially when Pastor Kim is gone, all right? So I am excited for what God has for us. The guys did a great job of setting this up, so we're going to dive right into it. Proverbs chapter 18, if you have your Bibles, is where you can open it. And we are indeed in part 2 of this series, Vintage Wisdom. Now, if you missed last week, or you just kind of missed last week, or maybe you just are here and you forgot last week, I just want to take a moment to catch you up with where we're at and where we're going. That last week we started this series called Proverbs, where what we discovered is that Proverbs, written by Solomon, that this book has been given to us by God as a gift from God, so that we would be wiser this time, not just next time. That we would be wiser this time, not just next time. That all of us, this is the truth, that all of us have experienced in this life where we have gone down the road of foolishness, where we've taken the path of foolishness, where we've made some foolish decisions in our lives. We've taken that path, that we've paid huge consequences for those decisions, and then with hindsight, 2020 hindsight, looked back in our lives and said, next time I'll be wiser. Next time that situation happens, next time that circumstance, next time in that relationship, next time I will be wiser. We've all experienced that in our lives, that we all have the stories of that foolish path that we've taken, where we said, next time we'll be wiser. And one of the great gifts from God that's been given to us is this book, where he gives it to us so that we would be wiser this time, not just next time. And so last week we looked at wisdom, and we talked about wisdom, and we discovered what wisdom is in our lives. And we said this point number 1 in your outline, that wisdom is navigating life skillfully and successfully. That's what wisdom is. Wisdom is navigating life skillfully and successfully in the areas of relationships and our responsibilities. That's what wisdom is. That wisdom is more than just a good advice. It's more than a good plan that we put together, a successful plan that we put together. That wisdom, as Solomon saw it, that wisdom is having the competence to grasp meaning out of life's situations, understand what to do with it, how to do it, the right way at the right time. That's what wisdom is. And that as we looked at last week, what we discovered is that our role within wisdom is to pursue it. That we are a people who are called to pursue wisdom with our lives. That if you followed along in the reading plan that we gave out last week, and if you followed along in that, then on Monday, you came to Proverbs chapter 2. And you read these words that Solomon wrote about wisdom. He says this, that yes, If you call out for insight, remember that's just another word for wisdom, that if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. That we are to pursue wisdom. That we are a people who have been called to pursue wisdom. So in the pursuit of wisdom, where we're going from here forward and every week of this series throughout the summer, is we're going to look how wisdom intersects with some of the issues that we have in life. That we're going to look at where wisdom intersects with our life. And so this week, we're going to talk about relationships. And next week, we're going to talk about how we make wise decisions. And then the week after that, that's July 4th weekend, and Pastor Tim will be preaching that weekend, and he's going to preach about sex. So get ready for that. I mean, oh yeah, right? So that's a PG-13 rating on that. And then after that, Pastor Kim will be back in the saddle, and he'll talk about wisdom in our words and wisdom in the workplace and how we continue on a life of wisdom through an ongoing part of our life. That's our pursuit here at Crossroads this summer as we pursue wisdom together. Now, I want to remind you that all of this content is online for you. That you can get it online, or you can go to our app and download our app, and there you can catch up on sermons. If you miss them this summer while you're traveling on vacations or whatever, that you can catch up on sermons that way. You can get the reading plan there. You can also read the blog series that we're writing kind of alongside this series, and all of that content is free because we want to give it away. We want you to be wise this summer. We want you to send this to your friends and family so that they would be wise. That we want to use this summer at Crossroads as a pursuit of wisdom. Now, with all of that said, where we're going today is that we're going to focus on the area of relationships, and specifically that of friendships. That the truth is that all of us can look back at our time where we said, next time I'll be wiser in regards to relationships. That all of us want to be wiser in our relationships. And the good news for us is that Proverbs has a lot to say about relationships. That Solomon wrote a lot about relationships and friendships, what they look like, how they work, how we're to function in them. That he wrote so much more than what we'll even get to today. And the reason that he spent so much time talking about relationships and friendships is because from the moment that you were born, and the moment that I was born, that the moment that we were born, we were searching for connection. That every single one of us, at the moment that we were born, we began searching for connection in this world. See, point number 2 is this, is that God has put in all of us a question. That God has put in all of us a question. The question is this, is where are you? That in the depths of each and every one of our souls is this question, where are you? Now, this is a question that doesn't have to do with where you're at physically, but it has everything to do with where you're at relationally. Where are you? That every single person has this question in them. Now, just in case you're thinking that this is just that this whole talk's going to be a whole, like the mumbo-jumbo pastor speak to you, I want to assure you that it's not. That one of the most important discoveries that science has made in the last 20 years is what psychologists have discovered is that relationships are important. That what Solomon wrote 3,000 years ago, science is now backing up. That vital friendships, those people that you hug, those people that you laugh with, those people that you lament with, that those people are the ones who have the greatest impact in your life concerning your health and your happiness. And one of the most amazing discoveries that science has made in the last 20 years is that we have been designed, that people have been designed to have 3 to 5 people in their lives for optimal well-being, for optimal living. That you were designed, science says, that you were designed to have 3 to 5 relationships in your life for optimal well-being. And that these relationships, that these relational connections produce qualitative and quantitative effects in your life, such as this. How long you live. How long you will live is determined on the relationships and the quality of relationships that you have. Whether you reach a goal, whether you have a successful career, whether you handle stress well or not, whether you are happy and content in this life or not. See, all of that has to do, science says, all of that has to do with relationships. That you were built for relationships. It's the way that God designed this life to work. That you were created as a relational being. And for me, it's not surprising that science has figured this out. What's surprising to me is that it took us this long to figure it out. That as Pastor Kim says all the time, that you can go at this life alone, but you're not going to make it very far. And so today what I want to do is I want to share a principle about relationships with you that I've shared countless times in one-on-one sessions, counseling sessions. I've been able to have the chance to share it in some smaller group settings like men's breakfast or on a retreat, but I've never had the opportunity to share it in a large group until today. And so I'm excited for what God is going to do with this. That it was 2 years ago, I was sent to Florida for some senior pastor training. That Pastor Kim and I are in this transition here at Crossroads, and I've been doing some training in terms of what leadership looks like at the senior level, so on and so forth. And so I went down to Florida, and while in Florida, I was in a small group of guys, and we got to sit with and learn from Dr. Henry Cloud. Now, Dr. Henry Cloud is one of my mentors in life, and he gave me this principle that I'm going to share with you today. And when he shared it with me, it totally changed the way that I think about relationships, and even bigger than that, the way that I think about life. If you're interested kind of further in this discussion, that you can pick up his book. It's called The Power of the Other. It goes deeper than what we'll get to today. But the best way to understand relationship is by using a cell phone, okay? That you are like a cell phone. And the way that your relationships work is much like the way that our cell phones work. That when you look at your cell phone, oftentimes you can find, the little place where the network's at. And right there in the network, it may say no connection, or you might have 1 bar or 2 bars or even 3 bars of connection. That this is the way that God designed us. This is the way that God designed you. That your heart is constantly looking for, constantly searching out for what it needs. That you are in constant search for a network to connect to in this life as you work through and in your life. That in your life, there are 4 possibilities of connections that I want to walk through with you that I think will help you understand connection and relationships in a way that maybe changes the way that you live. That this is point number 3. We're going to walk through this really slow as we walk through the 4 points of connection. And so the first point of connection is this, is that this is what we'll just simply call no connection, all right? The first point of connection is what we'll call no connection. That this is where we are simply not connected relationally with other people. That's no connection. That maybe you're Paul, but there's no Timothy. Maybe you're David, but there's no Jonathan. In a recent survey conducted on relationships, a question was asked of the people who were taking the survey, and the question was this, is how many friends do you have? How many friends do you have? Well, this study found that the highest response to that question, almost 40% of men, was 0 friends. 0 friends. That women responded only slightly better. That a lot of people in our culture, in our world, and even in our church, are trying to live life and function where there is no connection. Now, maybe there's people around them. Maybe there's people in the room with them. Maybe they have coworkers or a family. Maybe even they're married. They have a wife or a husband. That there's all these people in the room with them, but there's no connection with them. There's no connection happening. And when there's no connection, when we live in the place of no connection, then life begins to lose its meaning. The consequences are huge. People who live with no connection, depression goes up, joy goes down. That this is a terrible place to live. And so we move from the place of no connection to maybe the second place, and we'll call the second type of connection the bad connection. The bad connection. That the description of this type of connection is that you're left feeling bad about yourself in some way. You're not good enough. You're inferior. You can't live up to expectation. You'll never meet those expectations. That maybe it stems from abuse in your past. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it stems from having a crummy father growing up. Maybe it doesn't. There are a million reasons why you may have bad connections in your life. But regardless of the reasons why, the consequences are fierce. That if you are here today and you're living in the area of bad connection, if the connections that you have are bad connections, then you're probably living a life where you carry around huge burdens of guilt and shame. Where you carry around the burden of guilt and shame in your life constantly. Never being able to live up. Never good enough. That you have people in your life, but the only people that you have connection with are those who lead you to a life where you're constantly beating yourself up because you cannot live up to what they expect of you. Now, naturally, no one wants to live there. Nobody likes living in bad connections. So we go one of two ways. Either we go back to no connection and say, look, no connection is better than this. Or we move on to the next type of connection. And the next type of connection is what we'll call the fake good connection. The fake good connection. That this connection feels good, but it's fake. That we don't want to live in isolation. We don't want to walk around with the burden of guilt and shame in our life. We don't want to walk around feeling like we can't live up to the expectations that other people place on us, so we move here. That it feels good, but the reality is that it only lasts for a moment. That it only lasts for a moment. It just simply doesn't last. It's like a sugar high in our life. That this is where we use relationships to escape reality. This is where we escape reality. The Bible calls this fantasy, where we create pseudo-environments in our lives to escape the reality of what's going on around us. That one of the cool things that we're working on here at Crossroads is called Deeper. Pastor Chris, alongside Doug and Christine, are developing this new thing called Deeper. That in our discipleship journey here at Crossroads, it begins with Rooted, and then the next step that we're developing after Rooted, we're calling Deeper. And one of the things that I'm so excited about, and the reason that I think God is going to use this in some amazing ways, and we've already seen him use it in some small groups that we've been trying it in, is that one of the first things that we take on in Deeper is that of fantasy. And we look at what God has to say about it and how we find healing from it and how we move in a life that's not built on these pseudo-environments where we escape life. See, the fake good connection takes on a lot of different looks. That it can look like the illicit relationship. Maybe you're in one of those illicit relationships, and while you're there, it feels so good, but you know it's wrong. You know it's bad, and in your mind and in your heart, you know it is not going to last, that this is fake. It's fake. It shows up in those relationships where we're able to spend hours upon hours with other people, but we never move beyond in our conversation between beer and sports. They're just shallow. It can mask itself in high performers, where you drive your team to further and further and greater sales goals. It shows up in your family life as you drive your kids to the next trophy, to the next driven, to the next whatever. It can show up as an addiction to porn or alcohol. It takes on many different looks, but the common denominator in every single situation is that you do it because it feels good. But the reality is that it doesn't last. It's fake. It's fake. And so when we look at the areas of our lives in terms of relational connection, we see that there's a place where we can go where there's no connection. That some of us are living a life of bad connection. For some of us, we found ourselves in the fake good connection. And then there's a fourth type of connection, and that fourth type of connection is what we'll call the good connection, the good connection. That these are the kind of relationships that are as essential to you as oxygen and food and water. It's the place where you get to be your whole self, fully known, fully loved, without the fear of rejection, understood, and mutually invested in. It's where you can bring to this other person your greatest joys and your deepest fears. It's where you can serve the other person and serve together and know that they serve with you back. It's where they know your heart, mind, and soul, what makes you tick and what drives your passion. That this type of relationship is built on humility, where I can get to the point where I say, I need you. I need you. Now, all of us, as you hear that, all of us go, that's what I'm looking for. That's the type of connection that I want in our life. But isn't this true that for every single one of us, the problem is the matter of pride? That for so many of us, we are so prideful, that there's so much pride in our lives that we can never move in relationships to the point of being genuine and authentic in our relationships. It's one of the reasons that I love Rooted is because by week 3, all the walls start coming down. And the soil is fertile for this good relationship, these good connections to start forming and to start happening. That Henry Cloud in his book says this, that the range of human needs are broad, but the way that we meet those needs is very narrow. It involves humbly and honestly embracing the need and reaching out to the power of the other. There is no other way.
Hey, welcome back to the broadcast booth. We are at halftime. And Pastor Trevor, why don't you break it down for us? What have we seen so far?
Well, Pastor Brad, here's what I've seen so far. I may or may not have seen Ashley Judd in the concession stands getting a Coke.
Oh, I bet Pastor Matt enjoyed that.
I bet he did. Well, I got to say, wow, Brad. Wow. Four possibilities of connection.
Only four.
That's correct. Let's take a look. Let me break it down for everyone out there. What we're going to do here is we're going to draw a box. We're going to draw that box, and on the top left corner, we're going to write no connection. On the top right, we're going to write bad connection. On the bottom left, we're going to write fake connection. And then here, listen to this. Here in the bottom right corner, we're going to write good connection. And then you take this and you move this way and you come in and you hone in there and you circle and boom, good connection, Pastor Brad. Good connection.
You certainly took us through that.
Well, I'm telling you, Matt is like when he's preaching, and when he's not, he's not.
That's insightful. Well, Pastor Trevor, what do you expect from the second half of this sermon?
Well, frankly, who knows? Who knows? So far, I've seen some great things, but here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see any more Rocky's jokes from Pastor Matt.
I don't think Pastor Matt will go there again. I'll tell you who's a master at this, Trevor.
Tell me, Brad.
Pastor Kim Scadam. He will start out. He'll take you over here. He'll take you over there. He moves left. He moves right. He moves up. He moves down.
Wow.
He gets you all turned around, brings it right back to the middle, makes a point. I'll tell you what, Kim always tells me he really gets them when he's Omaha, 47-3, hot, hot, hot.
Pastor
It's really
Brad,
something.
Are we even talking about the sermon?
Well, I thought.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the sermon, let's go back to the edge.
All right, so Trevor took you through the four kind of corners of connection, and since he did such a great job, we're going to move from that into really what does it look like to fill up this good connection? What does it look like to have what we would call true friendships, all right? So Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24, here's what Solomon says to us. He says, "A man of many companions or acquaintances may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." That Solomon points to something here that I've learned in my life that I wish somebody had told me at the very beginning of my ministry career. That it would have saved me a lot of pain and frustration in terms of relationships and friendships. And I give it to you today in hopes that not only will it help you, but that you'll use it to pass it on to someone else. That Solomon begins this proverb saying, "A man of many companions or acquaintances may come to ruin." That word ruin can also be used to say disappointment. See, one of the first funerals that I ever did here at Crossroads about 10 years ago, and it was for a man who died fairly early in his life, mid-50s, early 50s. He was a father. And we gathered together to plan the services. And like we always do in those funeral planning services meetings, is we sit down and we try to honor God and honor the person whose life just passed, because those lives are a gift to us from God. And so we always try to do that. And in the midst of those meetings that we have with the families are always grieving, and there's sadness and there's heartbreak. And at some point during those meetings, we get to the place where we have to ask the question, well, how many people are you expecting? How many people will be at the funeral? And in this particular situation, one of the family members spoke up and said, well, Dad was beloved. He was super outgoing. He was energetic. He had friends everywhere. Everybody loved him. That we'll have 100 people there that are just family, and then I would guess probably another 250 or more in friends. And I kind of did the quick math, and I was thinking, man, 350 people. Now, 350 people at our Northglenn campus, where we do a lot of funerals, is a lot of people. That is a packed house. That is like standing room only. And I was feeling a little bit anxious about that because, the worst thing in the world would be to do a funeral and to have to turn people away because we ran out of seats. That would be awful. And so I went to Rhonda, our funeral coordinator, and I kind of told her what was going on. I said, they're expecting 350 people at least. What are we going to do? And she looked at me and she said, Matt, plan for about 150. And I was like, 150? No. They said 350 people. She goes, I know. Plan for 150. Well, I didn't believe her. And so I was coming up onto the funeral, and I had all these anxiousness and this worry about how we were going to, accommodate this family and all the friends that were coming and all that. And we got to the day of the funeral, and we did the funeral service. And at the funeral was about 125 people. About 100 of them were family. And after the funeral, one of the family members came up to me, and we had this conversation, and they were wondering why more people didn't come. And they said, where were all the friends? Where were all the friends? And I remember trying to explain something to him that day that I didn't quite understand myself. See, for the vast majority of the people that we're friendly with, the workout warrior at the gym, the barista at Starbucks, the person you take your dry cleaning to, maybe even the people that you pass in the hallway at work that you say hi to, that the people that are nice and friendly to you and that you're nice back to, that these are all friendly people. But we have to be careful because, as Solomon says, these aren't really true friends. These are simply acquaintances. Or you can maybe even think about them as circumstantial friends. That this is what I call the Facebook phenomenon. That since Facebook's been created, that all of a sudden everybody we know is classified as a friend. That everybody we know is a friend. And you and I both know that that's not entirely true, that some of those people on there are just acquaintances. I mean, in fact, in my world, I have 700 Facebook friends or something like that, and I can guarantee you that there are people who are my Facebook friend that if they came up to on the street to me, I wouldn't know who they were from Adam. That's just the way it would be. Now, don't test me on that. I will fail if you come up afterwards and test me on that, but occasionally, an acquaintance becomes a true friend. And when that happens, it's awesome. But more often than not, isn't this true? Isn't this what happens? Is that one day you show up at the gym, and that guy that you run next to and you chat with some as you're doing your workout, as you're walking or whatever you're doing, that one day that guy's not there at the gym, and you go, wow, I wonder where he's at today. And then a few days pass, and then a week passes. And you go, man, I haven't seen him at the gym. I wonder what happened to him. And you conclude that, I guess he just moved on. That these are the kind of relationships that just move on. And it's not like they were insincere. It was just that what brought you together was circumstances. And when that circumstance changes, so does the relationship. So does the friendship. That when that circumstance is no longer a part of their life or your life, then so too is the relationship. It's just no longer a part. And when it comes to these type of relationships, my encouragement to you is to be friendly in them, to show them radical love, serve them, pray for them, invite them to church, that these connections matter. But be careful. If you total them up and think that one day that they will be at your funeral, you will be disappointed. That we have to realize the connection for what it is, that they're acquaintances, they're circumstantial friends. Now, when it comes to true friendship, that friendship that begins to fill up the box of good connection, that corner, the friends who we think, man, we are going to be with them to the end of life. Even the majority of true friendship is what I would call seasonal friends. Seasonal friends. That when I first came to Crossroads Church, there was a group of guys that I began to hang with, and we had good relationships, and soon those relationships turned into what I would define as true friendship. That these were 5 guys who I saw weekly, who I knew I could count on, that we served each other, and we served our families, and they served my families. That there were these moments that we went through, some deep pains together, and great joys. And for 7 years, these guys and I, we walked together. And then one day, out of the blue, one of them came to me and kind of shared about what was going on at work. And all of a sudden, his work was moving him to another state. And all of a sudden, I realized, oh no, our relationship's going to change. Our friendship is going to change. It has to. We're not going to see each other every week. We're going to miss out on going through some of those struggles and those joys together. We're not going to be like we have. And all of a sudden, that was beginning to change. And then soon after that, another friend had some life situation happen where it began to shift in his life, and our relationship kind of grew differently. And then 2 other guys who were lay leaders in this church came to me and said, you know what, God's calling us to a different church to do some ministry that he has for us. And soon those relationships began to change. And then there was a friend, one of these guys, who leveraged my position as a pastor to do some pretty awful things. And it was like in a matter of 6 months, these true friendships were seemingly gone. And I remember sitting back and wondering, how could something so good, how can something so meaningful so abruptly end? And concerning this friend who leveraged my position in this church to do some terrible things, it affected me deeply. It hurt me deeply. And I can remember looking at my wife and saying, maybe when it comes to being a pastor, that I should just lower my expectation. Maybe you can't have true friends when you're a pastor. And honestly, I became very disillusioned with friendship. Well, God taught me some really hard truths over the next year. And what I came to realize is this, is that in today's society and in today's culture, that many of us will have many very meaningful and true friendships that we will invest in and find joy from, where we'll go through life and be in those deep struggles and those great joys. But maybe we shouldn't be too surprised when our friends get reshuffled a bit. You know, it's nobody's fault usually. Usually it's no one's fault, just things begin to change a little bit and those relationships begin to reshuffle a little bit. That in Ecclesiastes, another book that Solomon wrote, he writes that everything has a season. That everything has a time and a place. That everything has a season. And the more that I thought about this, the more that I came to realize is that each one of those friendships were a gift from God that I should cherish. And while I still have some contact with those guys, those relationships look different. But they don't change that I'm thankful for them. And in God's tremendous grace and tremendous blessing, he's brought a different group of guys into my life, some really cool guys that I've gone deep with. And whether those relationships last 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years, I'm going to be thankful for them. Because I realize that for this season, God has given me this incredible gift that I cherish those relationships. That these are meaningful, true friendships that I have. Now, when it comes to this good connection box, there's the seasonal friends, but there's also another classification of friends, and that is the here to the end friend. Those are the lifelong friends. That I have a group of people in my life who I met when I was in the 3rd grade. When I started coming to Crossroads Church at North Glen campus, I met these group of friends. And these group of friends, man, my prayer is that one day, like, we're in the retirement home and sitting in the principal's office because we got in trouble. Like, that's my lifelong prayer, okay, is that I'm with these guys to the end. And that it's been a tremendous time. We've experienced some great joys in our life, that we've been in each other's weddings, that we get together for dinner, that we've been there for when our kids were born, that these are great, great friendships. These are the type of friendships that I pray that will go to the end of life with me. And my encouragement to you is if you have these kind of incredible relationships, friendships in your life, to realize that this is a gift from God. Handle them with care. They're precious. They're a treasure. That Solomon says in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6, he says this, that many a man proclaim his own steadfast love, but a faithful man who can find? Isn't that what we're all looking for? 3 to 5 people who are faithful to us, who we can call true friends, who are truly loving, that they're meaningful friends. That's what we're all looking for. But Solomon also points to one other type of friendship. And it's in the last part of chapter 18, verse 24. And I made it the 4th point in your outline. It's this, that there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And what I want to describe for you in the final few minutes that we're together is, for some of you, will make you excited and your heart will jump for joy, and for others of you, you'll think I'm crazy. That I want to describe it like this, that the essence of our Christian faith is relational in nature. Now hear me out on this. That the essence of our Christian faith is relational in nature. That certainly we have our beliefs and our traditions and our creeds and the way that we do things. But the thing that separates us from every other major world religion is that we have a God who has reached out to us and desires a personal relationship with us. That they desire a personal relationship. That it's a God who seeks friendship with me and you. It's not an acquaintance. It's not, a seasonal friend who will give you a good 10, 15-year run. It's not even a friendship till death, because a friendship with God extends into eternity. That one of Jesus' good friends, John, wrote a gospel. And he recorded these words of Jesus in chapter 15. I want you to look at them with me. Here's what he says. Jesus says this, that this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but... Now, I want you to read at all three of our campuses, I want you to read the underlined part with me. I have called you friend. I have called you friends. That Jesus says to you and to me, I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. That I have called you friends. Now, when you look at your life, how do you experience God? Do you experience God? Do you experience this faith primarily as a relationship? Do you experience Jesus Monday through Friday as a friend? Or do you experience him as a list of rules to follow or a group of boxes that you check off? Do you have the type of relationship with God where you feel him reaching out to you and where you're not afraid to reach back to him? Where you go, look, God, I trust you, and you can trust me because we've been through some things. That we've had the conversations, we've talked, we've related to each other. That because of what Jesus did on the cross, we have a relationship. We are friends. When you have that kind of relationship with God, it changes everything. It changes everything. And my hope and my prayer is that that reality is true for every single one of you here. Because the truth of the matter is this. Isn't this true? The truth of the matter is this. Is that without the relationship, then Christianity is like every other religion in the world. It's just a list of do's and don'ts. It's just a bunch of check boxes that we check off. What separates everything is that God desires a relationship with me. That God desires a relationship with you. That Solomon says that there is a friend who is closer, that sticks closer to you than a brother. He's not an acquaintance. He doesn't give you a good 10-year run. He doesn't even end up in a box one day. That he's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And my challenge to you this day is if you don't know that type of relationship, if you've never been able to come to the God of the universe and look at him relationally, personally as a friend, if he's doing something and stirring something in your heart today, my prayer for you is that after we're done with the service is to come down front. That I'll be here at Fort Lupton, Trevor at Thornton, Brad at Northglenn. That we would consider it an honor to pray for you. We want you to know that you can have that type of relationship with the God of the universe where he looks at you and says, you are my friend. For others of you, you've been doing the Christian thing for a while. And maybe you had a good 10 or 15-year run with God. But you treated your relationship with God like a seasonal friendship. And maybe you went off to college, or maybe you had a family, or maybe you finished your career. And in that relationship, you changed that relationship with God. And you put God back up on the shelf. And you said, you know what? I'm going to go down the foolish path and do it by myself for a while. And somewhere along the way, you wandered back into this thing that we call church. And you're sitting here today, and you're going, I used to have that. I used to know what it was like to have that kind of relationship with God. And if God's stirring in your soul, but I want you to take the next 5 minutes as we sing songs at all of our campuses and just explore that. Is God speaking to you to that day? Have you treated God like an acquaintance in your life? Have you treated him like a seasonal friend? Or do you know him as a brother who sticks close to you? I want to pray for you. Then we're going to sing some songs, and then we'll close up service. Will you bow your heads with me? Father, we come to you, and God, we give you thanks. We thank you for the wisdom that you have given to us in Scripture, specifically in Proverbs. And as we look at relationships today, God, it is heartbreaking to me to realize that 40%, if the statistics are true, 40% of our church are wandering around in no connection. That there are people in bad connections and fake connections. And God, the prayer of my heart is, Lord, that you would use this church and that you would create the soil necessary for us all to have the good connections. That we would know what it's like to walk with true friendship, Lord, whether those friends are seasonal or lifelong to the end friends, that you would create a space here at Crossroads Church, across our campuses, where we can have those kinds of relationships. But God, I also pray for those in the room today, God, who may not yet know you. Sir, maybe they know all about you. Maybe they can quote some scripture even. But they've never known you as a friend. They've never realized the relational aspect that you call us into, where you look down on us and you say, I'm your friend. So God, I pray for their souls, Lord, that you would stir inside them and that you would awaken their souls today. Lord, for others of us who, Lord, have just been wandering by ourselves, where we used to know you, but now you're just more of an acquaintance, if even that. Lord, I pray that you would restore that relationship, that you would bring us to a place where we see you and know you and love you. Lord, where we can say that we run into your arms and that we trust you fully. And so, Lord, will you awaken those souls as well? God, I thank you for the way that you work in us, that you have loved us, and that you do give us the opportunity of relationship with you, the God of the universe. What a good gift. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Of its suffering I do dream, and its work I do. For it's my Savior, bruised and crushed, so that God is love, God is just.
it's in the screen as well. Thank you for coming to our special Father's Day weekend services here at Crossroads Church. Pastor Brad, it has been a pleasure to be with you in the broadcast booth.
you.
And by the way, you look immensely dapper in that shirt.
Thank you, young man. Appreciate it. Hey, we want to invite you all back next week. Pastor Matt, unbelievably, going to continue his winning streak, his winning series, preaching our summer series, Wisdom out of the Book of Proverbs. Next week, Wisdom in Making Decisions.
That's right, Pastor Brad. We all want to make wise decisions. And we want to encourage you to continue in your Bible reading plan on Proverbs throughout the whole summer. Where can we find access to that, Pastor Brad?
We got a reading plan just for you, crossroadsabc.com. Check it out, download it, get into Proverbs. And we want to say to all you out there, Happy Father's Day.
Boom. All right. No, that's good. Some nice old lady came to me at the church. She's like, well, if the pastor thing doesn't work out, you can become an announcer. And I said, boom! And I scared her. That was bad. Anyways, we are so glad you've come to join us here at Crossroads. Was it an amazing morning? Did we have a great morning together? We surely did. Dads, here's the deal. We love you. We value you here at Crossroads. And for Mother's Day, we did a Hershey kiss, which was great. Give Mom a kiss. Today, dads, we're going to say root beer for all the dads in here and all the families. We went out to, lost my mind. Okay, I'm back. All right. We went out and we got a keg of root beer from Tommy Knockers, super yummy, so make sure you go out there. And we realized that for some of you, Father's Day is a tough day, right? Maybe your dad was absent, maybe wasn't present, whatever that is. And so we acknowledge that. And we're paired up with, we want to bring a little redemption to the day for you, for all of us, right? And there's an organization that we team up with called Save Our Youth. And Save Our Youth is dedicated to providing mentors for adolescents that a lot of them don't have father figures in their lives. And so they come alongside them. They provide great mentors that help take these adolescents through those formative years. And so here's the deal, is if you're willing and able, it's free today, but if you're willing and able and would like to donate to Save Our Youth, it's $0.25 a cup. And here's the deal. We're 25 cents cheaper than Northglenn today, okay? So Northglenn campus is charging 50 cents, 25 here. Awesome. Man, Wisdom series. If you heard the series today and you're thinking, man, I could use some prayer for my relationships, prayer for my family, for my children, whatever it is, there'll be some folks up front here who would love to pray for you. If you're new, hey, we like to have a lot of fun, but we take Jesus really seriously around here. And so if you would do us a favor, fill out your connection card in front of you, hand that to the folks at the Welcome Center, and they would love to contact you this week. Could we do a benediction together before we leave today? And before we leave, could we just say thank you to Andy one more time and this great team here? Just an amazing job. Again, if you want to see more of what Andy's up to, you can go to unifiedworship.com and find out all the things he does here locally. He's involved in Heaven Fest and Hope Fest and does some amazing things. So thank you for making time, Andy. We're blessed to have you here. Let's read this together. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home